What's up, folks? Welcome back to the Best Show Ever podcast, the podcast where I interview people about the best shows that they have ever seen in their lives. I'm your host, Cam Herdt, and we are talking about Memorial Day weekend on these two episodes this week, specifically what happened up in Syracuse, New York, at the Westcott Theater, with the inaugural festival brought to you by Dogs in a Pile, headlined by Dogs in a Pile, and hosted by me. Yeah, we did a little bit of comedy with Dogs in a Pile in between all of their sets of their awesome lineup that they set up in Syracuse. Man, we had a incredible time. And so we are going to get into that. I've got a recap episode right now where I break down all of the dog sets, talk about the stuff that I was doing out there, talk about some of the other bands that played. But this episode, the one that you're listening to right now, is a conversation with Dog's piano player, Jeremy Kaplan. Listen, if you are listening to these episodes right now as someone who is like still getting into Dogs in a Pile, trying to learn about Dogs in a Pile, I'll have you know you are listening to a hell of a musician right now on this episode. All of these guys in this band, Dogs in a Pile, are just powerhouses. They're straight out of Asbury Park, New Jersey, and they are phenomenal. And they are really moving and shaking in the world, getting themselves a festival. And Jeremy and I talk about it a little bit. Talk about the things that led up to us going to the Westcott. We talk about the fun that we had with the dog pound this weekend. It really felt like a family reunion type vibe, and we'll get to that again. If you want to hear all about how the weekend went, listen to that recap episode. But if you'd like to hear from Jeremy Kaplan, you're about to. This is a best show ever for him. We had a little bit of time to talk, so we get into Rush, we get into the bands that he's listening to right now, his entrance into the jam scene, and how it's important for all of the members of your band to not worship at the feet of fish all the time. Yeah, it is an important thing. And so it's enough intro out of me. I'm going to get out of the way of this intro. Please enjoy this conversation with Jeremy Kaplan. If you've been enjoying the podcast, feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel, like and subscribe everywhere you can do that. If you'd like to leave a review, that always helps out the algorithm of everything. But it's enough out of me. Enjoy this conversation with Jeremy Kaplan. Here's first just a little bit of music from Loon. You've been chilling at home since?
Yeah, mostly chilling. I'm still like just getting moved into my apartment, so I got empty walls right now, but I got most of my stuff in, and like it's pretty cozy. So
it's a new spot in Jersey, or
yeah,
sick, man. Hell yeah. Well, it was great hanging this weekend, dude. It was such a cool get together. Like I think that like with that, like, with the pivot going on and everything, it was it's hard to know what to expect going into that. Like
yeah,
never had anything like that happen. So
yeah, me neither. It was scary, but I was never really worried, which is like interesting and kind of I don't know, different, because I definitely I'm not a worrier per se, but I think things over and through, like, a lot too much probably. So the fact that I wasn't like, really torn up by all that stuff, I think is a testament to how the weekend ended up going.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But there's like the level of like, well, what are we gonna do? Like not do like
Yeah.
Like what you have to just do it. Like what are we supposed to wallow, or like it was like it moved on anyway, and there was like a great weekend of great music, excellent lineup, all the sets were killer, and you guys were fucking awesome, man.
Hell yeah. That's a good time.
Yeah. And so for the rest of the tour this summer, you guys have a bunch of cool dates. Is there anything like you guys are taking from this weekend, or like you're trying to work out this weekend that you're planning on busting out throughout the tour? Or like, I mean, I know the new songs are still getting played live a bunch, but like, was there anything that you're like taking away from this weekend that you're like, all right, data collected, now we can move on to the summer tour?
Honestly, no. This was I would say that this was kind of like its own thing that we're thinking. Of course, moving forward, we're thinking about how this weekend went and how we can continue to have events like that we kind of host, you know. Um, so I think that's really what we got from the weekend. Um, that said, I definitely have we have like a couple weeks off here, so I'm ready. I've had a break now from working on the album, so I'm ready to get back into that and button that up.
Yeah, I mean that I felt that way from first of all, thanks for letting me entertain your people, entertain your audience for the weekend, and be a part of all of that. But I've felt the same way for myself. Like if we're gonna do something like that in the future, if you know if we're gonna do bits in between songs, or if we're gonna like host an event that calls for a little extra entertainment, like this was the event. It was not a run through, but it worked out great for something to like set up for something bigger in the future.
Yeah, for sure. And like there's, I through my life I've definitely always been a, figure it out by doing it type of person, you know. It's the best way to learn and the best way to, you got to fall on your face and make a couple mistakes and then you won't make that mistake again, you know. And I think there was relatively little falling on our faces, luckily.
Yeah.
And everything went really well. I had a great time. I think the crowd had a great time.
Oh yeah, and like I mean, shit, the stakes weren't lowered at all or anything. It was still like we had to pull off some great shows for people who were coming in from all over to Syracuse to, spend their Memorial Day weekend with us. But
Yeah.
yeah, it just got me more juiced to do more of that stuff. And like you said, you just can't know how things are going to go until you do it, and that's like
Yeah.
certainly true with what I do. Like I can plan out all these bits and we can talk about them on a Zoom call to the nth degree, but like you just don't know until you do it. So
Yeah, you got to go in there and feel the energy. That's all.
it was good energy. It was definitely good
It
energy.
was, yeah.
Felt like a family reunion in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sick, man. When you're, what's like when you're off, like what's the first thing that you're doing when you're going home? Like, are you, what's your
I I
modus?
like I like to take a shower. Um, that generally helps me feel better.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I shower and I sleep for a day or two, depending on how long and arduous the tour was. But then after that, I get really restless. I can't sit around too much, so I get right into practicing and working on music. Or not. Like I was saying, I just moved, so like,
Yeah.
it's been a lot of moving furniture and setting up the room how I want to set it up, and all this junk.
It's
So
like a part-time
I
job.
just can't. I can't. Yeah, no, totally. I can't sit still for too long. I get really, anxious and excited.
Hey, same.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're just like stirring about after a little bit of like, of course, had to come home and rest, and I'm still tired. Like I was just telling you before we hopped on here, I raged goose 2 nights after the festival, so I feel crazy
Yeah.
still. But
Yeah.
but yeah, like after that, you're just like, all right, what's the next fucking thing?
Yeah, for sure. And it helps. I mean, it definitely helps with your disposition in general, your attitude in life. It like if you're keeping yourself occupied and engaged, I think it's generally it's good for people to do that, you know.
Yeah, and you like you're someone that's I know you and Joe are like working on music outside of dogs. Like you guys work on Zappa tunes together. Is there something about like just going through like that's like this the most complicated music written in rock and roll history? Like is there something about like going after that like brings a freshness to what you do with dogs or
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I would say so, and that goes for all of us and all of our varied interests.
yeah.
I mean, um, you know, doing stuff like that is just it's almost like that's my hobby, you know. And I play music with the band, and it's work. It's also fun,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. But that's kind of the gig, and then my hobby is I learned this horrific sounding, jazz classical compositions, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it for anyone who is like a musician at home who's going through stuff that just seems like the hardest possible homework assignment to
Yeah.
give yourself, but it like you said, it sure sharpens you when you come back to your stuff then.
Yeah, for sure. It's always, it's always a new perspective. And I mean I love the Zappa catalog to death, but I'm always looking for new music. I found this artist called Cyrita recently, who Stevie Wonder produced her first 2 records. So I've been listening to some of that. It's kind of interesting. It's bizarre to have like Stevie as a producer, and then like his voice just kind of shows up here and there, and then but it's mostly led by this other singer. It's an interesting dynamic.
Cool, very cool. Well, okay, I do want to get into what you're listening to, and we could talk about how you prepare for dog stuff all the time. But I do kind of want to talk about shows you've attended as a music fan in your career. And to get started, what was the first show you ever saw in your life?
My first big boy concert was Rush in 2008, Snakes and Arrows tour.
Dude.
Yeah, that was huge. That was big for me.
I was at that same tour. And I don't know if you listen to I fucking talk about Rush in every other episode of this show. So perfect start, buddy.
Yes. Strong start. Yeah.
Yeah. Was that something that like your family is like you're coming with, or were you like begging to go type thing?
So I just went with my dad. He is definitely responsible for a lot of my taste in music.
Yeah.
But it's weird. I didn't come into it until a little bit later on. I guess in 2008 I was 9 years old or so, 10 years old. I don't know. And that up until that point, I was really listening to pretty much whatever my older sister was listening to, which was like a lot of, pop, early 2000s kind of Britney Spears type, which was awesome. And I still love, I still have a love for Gwen Stefani and Britney Spears and all that stuff.
It shows in your style. It really shows.
I know. It really comes out. Yeah. But then I got Guitar Hero for, it was Christmas or my birthday or something.
Yes, dude.
And YYZ was on Guitar Hero too. And I played that on the plastic guitar, and I heard it, and I was like, wow, this is some real shit right here. And so I got really heavy into Rush and kind of the more rock and roll stuff. That's kind of how music opened up for me.
Sick. So was your dad a big Rush fan, assumedly?
He wasn't like a huge Rush fan, but he definitely was into Rush. He comes from he's really, and this is another funny thing, because I didn't really get exposed to the jam scene until I was playing with the Dogs in like 2018. But he was huge into the Dead. He saw Fish as early as like 88 or something like that. He was on it,
Wow.
And so it was always around. I was always hearing it, but I didn't really investigate until later on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's like that kind of go between with like the music that you get from your dad. Like there's some stuff where you're like, I like this, and my dad thinks it's fucking awesome, and so I think it's fucking awesome. Like that was certainly part of my relationship to Rush, and like when you're a kid and you're like, hey dad, what's Rush? And he gets all fucking stoked like that,
Yeah.
like he was fired up. But yeah, there's also like at some point when you're in that age too, 10, 11, 12, you're finding your own music, and you're like, I like this stuff because it's not my dad's music. Because it's
it's totally, it's the rebellious phase is very real.
Yes. Yeah, that was it for me. Like I could not explain Blink-182 to my dad. There was just there was no amount of Travis Barker explanation I could give him that was going to leave him impressed by that at all. But yeah, like that's the stuff that you get into on your own. Man, but that's such a mind-blowing show, like rock and roll wise, Rush, like to go to as a kid,
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, they make a hell of a lot of noise for 3 dudes, and that's what hooked me early on, is like just the skill that they all possess, and like it's not really like show offy in a lot of ways. It's like just like they do it because that's how the music is supposed to be, and not because they can,
Yeah. Everything's like it fits. Even when they like in longer compositions and stuff like that, they'll just ram in a ton of notes in some moments and everything, but everything compresses and then condenses, and it's not just like a note fest, like it makes sense and is also supremely weird.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
I love that. And listen, You don't have to put any artists down at this point. Not every show is the best show you ever saw. Do you have a worst show experience in your life, or something that just maybe wasn't so inspiring?
So funny enough, around the same time of that first Rush concert, my dad took me to it was like a band shell concert in the park type of
Oh
thing,
yeah,
and it was a Steely Dan tribute act, and I hated it. I was like, this is the worst bullshit I have ever heard. Uh, which is funny because I've come to love Steely Dan quite a bit.
yeah. I know this
But
of you.
but at that time, I was like, oh my god, I can't understand how anybody is here right now enjoying this. It's
It appeals to you as you get older. You have to become a little bit.
I yeah, that's what I've come to realize, that it's not for the faint of heart or young.
It is really the black coffee of music. Like you're just not
Yeah.
you're just not ready for it when you're a kid. And that's it's cool that you say the thing about you weren't really introduced to the jam scene until you were in Dogs. This is something that I was talking about with the guys in Taper's Choice while you guys were playing. I was talking during your show. But they're like, not everybody in this band, they're like talking about you guys, is a major Fish fan, right? And I'm like, yes. They're like, I can tell. And that is important for a jam band. Like, not everybody in your
Yeah.
jam band can be obsessed with Jerry or like in love with Trey. Like, there has to be.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, there's some Zappa people in this band. There's some people who like prog rock. There's some people who are not in the Church of Fish exactly. And I that is important for the yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like playing music dynamically, right? If you start loud, you can't get any louder. You can only get that much louder, But if you start soft, you can get that much louder.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're starting from the world of like the definition of whatever it is that your band is trying to get at, like there's nowhere to go from there. You have to start somewhere else to bring things up to that point in your own way.
Yeah, and then let all that come through. Like the choices will
Yeah.
be made because you've been inspired the way you've been inspired. Like it's
Yeah.
gonna happen. Like that's gonna come out of the guys in your band who are bigger fish guys. Like they're gonna make those choices that seem familiar to that world, but like you got to start
Yeah.
away from that world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well put. And it is not easy to pick a best show ever. I'm sure you've seen a lot of music in your days. You've seen a lot of great musicianship.
Yeah.
But are there any shows that you've seen that you would be like remiss, like to not bring them up on the show?
Two I'm thinking of right now, both relatively recently. The Nth Power
Oh yeah.
did Earth, Wind, and Power on Jam Cruise, and I caught that this past year. It was probably like just top to bottom, the best thing I've ever seen.
It was the show of the cruise. It blew me the fuck away.
Yeah, I mean it was amazing. They with so much respect to the original arrangements, they completely rewrote the songbook. Like it was tastefully changed, but kept the same when it needed to be, and executed well, and just done with like a lot of love. It was really really spectacular.
Yeah, if even if you are like, I don't know how you could possibly be unfamiliar with the music, Earth, Wind, and Fire, but just go like the way that they chose to go in and out of things. Like you said, it was not a hokey show at all. It was like it was powerful. It was truly powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And of course, the backbone, the Nth Power is already such like a nasty, nasty band.
Yeah.
Adding in the extra percussion, the extra keyboards, all the horns and the backing vocalists. It was, things at that scale can become, just too much, cluttered and, kind of disheveled. But goddamn, it was so good.
So clean. It was so powerful. I mean, that was the show of the cruise for me. I mean, I just, could not have expected how good that was going to be walking into it.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. And I mean, there was another show I saw recently, which was fantastic, and that was Hiatus Coyote. I saw them at the Paramount in Brooklyn. That was incredible. Also, another insanely tight band that could really back it up live. I was amazed at how similar some of the cuts sounded to their studio counterparts, just timbrally and feeling wise. Not that the playing is like canned or anything like that,
Yeah.
but it felt the way the tune felt, on the record, and had that same listening experience.
Yeah, I think that people in our jam community love when something sounds different than everything else. They want it to sound different than it sounds on the record. They want it to sound different from the last time you played it. They
Yeah.
want it to sound different as it evolves. But there's, just something unbelievably impressive when you can kind of like catch the character of what you got on the record in like a live setting. Last year, Parcels was a band that did that, where I was like, Christ, this is tight. Like, this is like,
Yeah.
so unbelievably tight. And it's not like like recreation drum track version of what you got on the record. It's got a new life, but it's like so clean,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Love to hear that. Any other like honorable mentions that you gotta.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. What are they though?
Yeah.
I've been involved and seen some really good musical theater productions.
Yeah.
Which is not quite within the realm of the concert best show ever that we're thinking of here,
No,
but yeah, and it's I saw a Little Shop of Horrors with Corbin Blue, which was
wow,
pretty amazing.
All-star
Yeah,
from the childhood era. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I was like, dude, fucking take those glasses off, put on the basketball shorts. We're getting our heads in the game.
Give this guy a ball, dude. I want to see some dribble percussion right now.
Yeah. It was amazing, and so that was definitely up there. I was involved with the production of Hair many years ago,
Sick.
Which is amazing music, and the show was just directed really well. So that was fantastic too.
I think like getting into comedy myself, especially in Chicago, where there's like a big improv scene and there's kind of like a more theater style comedy scene. I was doing a lot of that, or trying to get into that through the stand-up world, and I was like, I didn't really do theater in high school because that was so much more intimidating to me. It was so much more of a bigger production, and even just the small stuff I was doing in high school, I was like, oh, that is like too much for me to bite off, because there's just so many moving parts, and you have to be so in it. Like, all of the theater people that I went to high school with were like so fucking in it,
It's scary. Those people are scary. I'll be the first to say it. I spent a lot of time with those people, and they're scary as hell.
But yeah, dude, I did crew because my friends were in, and I was just like, I couldn't possibly, knowing full well that I would have liked to, and I was like, no,
Yeah.
I couldn't dedicate myself to this. I'll do something simple like football. Yeah, dude. Man, and I'm glad you brought up. Listen, we can talk about concerts on this thing, but this is shows of all kinds, and so if it was something that blew you away, I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have a best show ever? Very difficult to pick, but do you have a show that you feel like might have been the best thing you've ever seen?
It's tough. As a
just one.
Yeah, just one. It's really it's so easy.
Yeah, right.
I will say I haven't seen a bad show. Even that Steely Dan tribute act, it wasn't. There's no way it was a bad show, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're playing Steely Dan. They know what's going on. They can play. I really don't think I've seen a truly bad show, and maybe that's just my my optimism speaking, which is a rare sight anyway. But there's something redeemable in all types of junk,
Oh yeah, and there's also like the recency thing. I'm a guy that leaves every show, I'm like, that was the fucking best show I've ever seen, and I do that with you guys legitimately every time I see you. I'm like, that was the fucking best dog show I've ever seen. There's just something about like what you just walked out and are feeling, and carrying through. And there's also like the shows that you liked when you were younger, when you're like Now you're older. Now you've got a little bit more context to what that show was, and you're like, I mean, it wasn't like the best thing I've ever fucking seen. It's just I was just young, and it was a big room, and everyone was very excited. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, any like, did you have anything that you felt like it sounds like you've been pulled towards music your entire life, but is there anything that kind of pulled you in and maybe helped you kind of rethink what this mission was going to be for yourself?
Interesting. Okay, so I saw this piano player Kenny Werner and a saxophonist Chris Potter. Two of the most, I mean, incredible, tasteful, skilled, expressive jazz musicians I've ever seen, and they're playing this a hotel bar actually in Manhattan. You could fit maybe 50 people in there. And I was there. I was there with my grandparents actually, because the piano player Kenny Werner was a student of my grandfather's in Oceanside on Long Island.
Oh,
So,
wow, cool.
um, so here are two like world class musicians, truly world class. I mean, Chris Potter is, I would say, more popular on the jazz in the jazzscape than Kenny Werner is. But Kenny Werner is a great educator and has really interesting ideas about music at large. Anyway, here are these two world class musicians playing in this like little hotel bar, for 50 people. And I thought, they're having the greatest time right now. It's just the two of them, piano saxophone duo, and they're just reveling in it. I don't know how much they were getting paid. But it's just like it didn't matter about the setting. It was really just they're there to play, and that's all they really care about. They're going to play how they want to play for themselves and each other, and that led to ultimate expression for everybody in the room.
Mm.
um that was a pretty special experience, I would say.
Yeah, and it's a helpful reminder. I mean, like, you are um you're trying to achieve something. You guys are trying to achieve great music every night. You want to come out and play a great show, and you want to play your best technically. You want to play your best expression of yourself and everything. But and it sounds so cliche, but the easiest way to get to that and to do that and achieve that for an audience is to simply be having fun, especially with the
Yeah,
people that you're playing with. If there's perceived fun, then the audience is like, these guys are having a blast. Now I can relax,
yeah,
also have a
yeah,
blast.
absolutely. It's something that I've been coming to terms with too, because not that long ago, a couple years ago, we would get into these conversations in the rehearsal room about like, well, the crowd would probably want this. We should add a double chorus here because the crowd's going to want that.
Yeah.
Um, but I've thinking about that experience, with Kenny and Chris, and all sorts of other stuff I've collected over the years. Like, I've really come to realize that it's not, it's almost it's like putting the cart before the horse, to be like, well, the crowd is going to want this, so let's play it this way. While it can be an important consideration at time, the crowd wants you to play, you know, as you want to play yourself. They bought a ticket so they could see the best version of each of us, and the band as a whole. So it's almost doing a disservice to the crowd by just inserting these things because it's what we think they would want, whereas we'd be better off just focusing on how good can we make this for ourselves. you know that 99 times out of 100 is going to land better on the crowd.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. And there's just no room for discovery or surprise. When you're like, let's plan out what we think they would like and deliver that, then it's like the crowd's like, sure. Yeah, I would have liked
yeah,
that if you found it. I would have liked that if you backed into it, or if we all came to that moment together, and leaving like room for surprise and leaving room for we actually don't know what the crowd is going to want, but here's what I
yeah,
want out of this moment. Here's how I feel about
yeah,
what we're playing. you tell the audience that they're smart. They're so much smarter than needing to be served
Yes.
up that moment on a platter, you know?
Absolutely, that's so true. The second you, it is like an insult to the audience's intelligence. You know, it's like, well, yeah, we cherry picked this stuff because we know it's going to hit you, and at that point, it's like, well, it's not hitting me anymore because it's so clear that you're doing this for the sake of doing it. You know, whereas if it was something that was legitimately you, I'd be all over it.
Yeah, and it's a trick. It's a crowd trick, and
That's right. Yeah.
even you don't have to be somebody who's been to 10 million concerts in your life. You can be like, oh, they did that thing, you know, that they thought of because they remembered it from another, little crowd trick for everybody. It's almost like, like adding the city's name into the lyrics, you know.
Yeah, that's so funny because I have such a love-hate relationship with that because it's like on the one hand it's so freaking cornball and I hate it,
Yeah.
but like sometimes you get a pop from the crowd. It's like, okay, that's I did in at Burning Daylight. I did Welcome to the Westcott. It's like, but I only did it once. Because I knew more than that. It's like, okay, enough is enough.
No, yeah, I mean, that came out of fun. That came out of that thing that we were talking about, like you guys having fun on stage. There was
Yeah.
also there was a whole bunch of goofballery that happened on stage that I would say like doesn't always happen at a normal dog show. Like
Yeah,
there's
for
a
sure.
moment like Brian's like picking his guitar up like a gun, and like Jimmy and Brian got like in a shoving match at some point, like during like a trade-off solo scenario. Like that is out of character. Like that was like we're having a ball at the festival type vibes,
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
But that would be funny if every single city, like to me, you are such a honest and true musician, and so that'd be so funny that then like you put in some hokey crowd move at the end of.
I know nobody's safe. Okay, that's what I'll say. Nobody is safe.
Nobody is safe. That's right. Well, sick, man. I again love cross and paths with you guys. Love being around the effort. Couldn't have loved this weekend more personally. It was a great gig for me. Just as a comedian to get out and, like I said, entertain your audience, man. But before you guys go back on the road, is there anything that you're like working through or listening to right now that has you juiced? You mentioned you've been listening to some new artists at the top of this thing, but
yeah. So that was Cyrita that I kind of got into recently, and it's strange because a lot of it's kind of schmaltzy, but some of it is like pretty down and dirty.
Yeah. Schmaltzy's good.
Schmaltzy, like that's the thing, like I have a taste for all sorts of stuff, whether it's like high information Frank Zappa or like really cheesy cornball 1950s nostalgia.
I was just gonna say, man, no, you throw Minnie the Moocher in with the best of them.
Yeah, I mean it's so that whole song's a bit,
Yeah.
but it was written as a bit, it's like it's fun though, it's fun.
It's so much fun. Like the first time I hear you guys play that at a show, same thing with you know what? I was about to throw this in the schmaltzy category, but you guys have unschmaltzed the fuck out of this song. Is when you guys play a Linus and Lucy, that gets very real. That's there's no schmaltz there. It's like a chuckle to start and fantastic to close.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
That's fun. That arrangement has definitely come along. And that's actually one of the oldest bits that we have, really, that we first did that. I remember the four of us when we were a four-piece at I had a couple Sam and I and Brian we're all living in Boston. Brian wasn't in the band yet, and so Jim and Joe came up to Boston. They stayed at my house and at Sam's apartment, and we were rehearsing in a Berkeley rehearsal room, and we learned Linus and Lucy together. That's something that sticks, because then we played it at a house show in my house the next day or something like that. Yeah, so that's been around for a long time, since early on.
I got to imagine the crowd reaction at the house show was pretty perfect. It feels perfect.
Yeah, they loved it. But also, like the house that we had was like mostly like kind of like indie, and then some kind of hardcore shows. So like there were some people there that were like totally not into it, but some of the people there enjoyed.
For me, that makes it work even better to have some people in the room like, this
Oh
is
yeah.
fucking Linus and Lucy.
No, yeah, it's like a mildewy smelling basement with like bubble wrap on the support poles so nobody like bashes their skull in, you know. It's like really quite DIY. Quite.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
I fucking love it, dude. Yeah, you guys played that Linus and Lucy into an LA woman at like one of the third or fourth shows that I saw you guys in LA. I was like, okay, this is like really fucking awesome. Like it's a full party now.
Hell yeah.
I really appreciate you spending part of your morning with me, man. Like, thanks for talking about shows. Anything you want to plug on the way out of this thing that you either are doing yourself or you want people to listen to or come to?
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, I like I said, I have resumed work on the album,
Sick.
and so I think this is gonna be a soft announce here. I think we're looking at a fall release date.
I love it, man.
So that's where I'll leave that.
Oh shit, you just got people so excited, dude. You don't even
I
realize.
hope so, because if nobody cares about it, I'm gonna be pissed.
I care. I know a bunch of people that care. I know about 500 people at the Westcott that cared. So, hell yeah,
Great.
hell yeah.
Well, thank you, Cam. I appreciate everything you've done for us this past weekend and having me on.
No problem, buddy. Anytime. Love to have you back.
Awesome.
That was my conversation with Jeremy. Man, this guy, excellent recommendations. Please take Jeremy's musical recommendations of what he's been listening to recently. And if you have not got a chance to go see this guy live with Dogs in a Pile, get yourself to a show. They're playing a bunch of dates through the summer. You can check them out, Dogs in a Pile, on Instagram. You can find all of their links through there. And get yourself to a show. They're coming through a bunch of different dates. These guys play more dates than any band in our scene. It is insane, the work ethic out of this band. And since first time seeing them, these guys have blown me away. I always want to say these kids have blown me away. That's not fair to them, even though they're young as hell. These are grown ass musicians playing excellent shows, and so please get yourself to a show. Check out the music. Check out the shows that they played over the weekend at the Burning Daylight Music Festival on Nugs. And if you'd like to hear a recap of how all those things went, get an episode of that out right now. Thank you for listening, guys. Again, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching this one. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, go ahead and leave us a review, or like all of those things. Rate it if you'd like. Just helps people find the podcast. But until next time, guys, have a great show.